brief introduction, I'm Austin Zielman. I'm the Director of Engineering here at Abacus.AI. Here with me today is Miguel Paredes, the Vice President of AI and Data Science at Albertsons. We're going to talk today about AI at brick-and-mortar businesses. So Miguel, could you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your company?
Sure. Hey, Austin. Hi, everyone. Pleasure being here with you guys. So Miguel Paredes, VP of AI and Data Science at Albertsons. We are the US's second largest grocery retailer, if you only take into account food and groceries. We also have pharmacies, and we're in a process of merging with Kroger, which is the #1 standalone grocery company, still not approved by the FTC. Still can't really talk much about that, but a massive opportunity in terms of data and insights towards our customers, and the company's been investing in the data and AI space for about probably 4 years, and with more intensity in the last 2.5. And I co-lead a team of AI data scientists, engineers. It's around a 60-person team. They're doing amazing stuff. We're having fun just looking at the data and learning from our customers and trying to figure out how do we inspire them, how do we make things more convenient for them, how can we recommend products for them, how do we learn about their preferences, their constraints, their health, etc.
Excellent. So what AI tools are you currently using today?
Yeah, so we basically, it's a typical Python shop. We use notebooks. We use our stack is Databricks, it's Snowflake. We're also using Google, Azure. We're also talking to different partners and specific tools around like different innovations. So we talk a lot to startups that are maybe like developing some tools to optimize the estimation of models, or maybe optimize the data side of things. So data-driven approaches to AI. But I would say that's our main tech stack. Okay.
And what challenges did your company have getting your company AI ready for preparing all the data, getting it ready to feed into the pipelines, and then eventually getting actionable insights from the models?
Yeah. So the grocery business is a legacy for technology, for advanced stuff like AI and ML. It's a legacy industry, and it's been catching up, and Albertsons has been doing a good job at that. There's other companies that are more advanced, but in general, I'd say it has to do with legacy systems, legacy databases, and updating those. That's one of them. Also, has to do with sensors, like where do you collect data from the touch points with your customers? Usually, a lot of companies that have been traditionally serving customers have not necessarily had the technology to do that. So we've been updating that as well, the technology to really capture the interactions with our clients. We've had to invest a lot in digital tools, an app, a website, and that's allowed us to get much more information, richer information on our customers' behavior, on what they're doing, where they're going, what they're buying. We still have a lot of customers that are only brick and mortar, and that's a big challenge. How do we actually get close to them, get to learn them? Obviously, always with consent and if they want. I'd say mindset as well. I think we were very fortunate that there was a strong push from the CEO, from the board, towards the importance of this and the need to transform ourselves as a company. So we had a lot of support there, but you still had to basically demonstrate, convince that there's value here in doing things this way to people who are experts in their field, and who are used to doing certain things in a certain way, very low margins in the grocery retail space. So a lot of risk towards doing things differently, just because they've been optimizing their decision-making processes for years and they do it well. So it's been a lot of partnership, a lot of experimentation, a lot of demonstration of the value of it.
Okay. And what insights or AI models are you currently using today?
Yeah, so I would say probably 70% of our models are traditional machine learning models, some sort of tree-based like GBM, extreme gradient boosting. We do a lot of forecasting as well. So the whole chain, right? The back end of the store and the front end of the store. Towards the back end, a lot of supply chain, a lot of merchandising optimization, a lot of picker path and picker slotting, and like optimization. We do a lot of towards the customers, a lot of personalization, a lot of recommendation of products, a lot of substitutions. There've been a lot of out of stock, as we all know. Whenever we go to stores, it's a little better now, but it was really bad after the pandemic. You could not get certain things. I could not get sriracha. It was horrible. I love sriracha. I could not get it. So like, how do you actually try to predict that? How do you actually try to understand if a product that a customer is trying to buy online will not be available with high probability? And how do you substitute? How you propose substitutions? How do you make those relevant? A lot of the problems in the space is that it's a cold start problem. We don't know for person X what they want. We can learn from other people that are similar to them, but you still will propose something, and maybe they are vegan or they're vegetarian. Or another big problem is the level of identity. Some people are sharing the same club card number, but it's household. So it might be, I am buying something today, but tomorrow I'm buying for my kid or my wife. So there's all these mixed signals that come in the data that make things a little more fun and challenging.
Got it. So how do you blend the brick and mortar, the in-person, with the online profile and online shopping?
Yeah, so we have a customer club member, right? So we got customers are part of a loyalty program, and they have like a card number, it could be the telephone. And so there's obviously varying degrees of quality there. I used to have a club card number when I lived in Boston, which is Shaw, is one of the brands. Now I have a different one. So there's a lot of cleaning and merging and approaches to that we're working on. We are building a customer graph to try to approximate that. And then the idea is, okay, so we observe people. We have more data on people that are more digitally engaged, which is what like a lot of the retailers are trying to do, get people digitally engaged, because you just get to know more of their behavior. You can see how they interact on the app. You can see what they're buying, et cetera. Now, we provide incentives as well, promotions for people to declare and self-identify in store that they're also put in the club number, because they'll get the discounts, et cetera. Because you want to basically use that information to what they bought in store to then personalize your interventions and your offerings for them, right? So a big question we have is, how do you personalize in store? That's not that easy. So we just launched a feature called in-store mode, which is really cool. You actually go into the app and you can actually put in in-store mode, and you can kind of like navigate, and it tells you where things are. And at the same time, it allows us to be able to push, if the client wants us to, allows us to push certain recommendations. So for example, a really useful feature that we've seen a lift in revenue and also a lift in customer satisfaction, because it's not only revenue that we're interested in, obviously we're interested in revenue, but we want customers to be happy. And so they'll stay with us, they'll have a good experience, and they feel like, oh, I know the Albertsons going to take care of me and my wallet, and they'll inspire me, et cetera. This feature that's been really successful is don't forget to add. I don't know how many times it's happened to you guys. Like, you go to the store, like I have a list of things I need to buy for dinner, and I forget one of the things. You know, I get distracted and I get home and I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot. So therefore I have to go back and get it. That's assuming, like, there's for people like me. I don't usually do delivery, just because I have one very close by and I'm still pretty old, so I like to go and explore. But like that is so a lot of times online that happens as well, and we can prompt them because we learn behavior. We learn shopping behavior, and we see, okay, like this person buys milk, 2% milk, a gallon every, I don't know, 3 weeks or something. So if like with enough data, we will be able to learn those patterns of transactions, of frequency of buying, a basket, and we will be able to like infer what it is in theory that they're going to buy. So we have this thing called Smart Basket, which basically is an auto-population of the basket. And this is something that many organizations have done. But when we notice that something maybe is not there that you're supposed to buy or should be buying, we'll prompt them, like say, hey, are you forgetting your milk, or are you forgetting this? So that's very successful online. The question is, how do you do it in store? How do you get customers like me that are in the store and you forget? It's not easy, because you could potentially do it at checkout. You could look at the thing, the whole list of things I'm buying, and you don't notice milk, and you connect it. Here's another technology problem, latency and connecting with the systems, but we're working on that, and you can potentially solve that. And if milk's not there, you could probably say, hey, Miguel, by the way, aren't you supposed to buy milk? Right? So in theory, like, that'd be great. But here's operational problems. Like, there's a certain amount of time that a customer should spend at the cashier checking out. If that takes forever, you're going to disrupt the whole thing for the rest of the customers. So right. Not necessarily the interventions online will translate to in store, but I think we have to get creative and figure out, how do we really serve our customer in all the touch points we have.
Okay. Yeah, you touched on this a little bit. in that it's not just pure like bottom line, but also the customer loyalty. But how do you assess the return of your investment on your AI projects? And
Yeah,
can you share any metrics that you use for that?
we do. We basically we look at incrementality. So and that's not easy to do. Like we have different levels of rigor in terms of the measurement of the value we create. So whenever we start a project, we always try to align to the company's strategy, strategic initiatives, and what's important for the business units. If you don't do that, you basically are setting up yourself for not having success, because people are not going to, in theory, assign resources to things that are not important. But if you actually join forces on, like, say, reduction of churn, or increase of market basket, or average market basket, or increase in customer experience, if you join that, people are going to be open and willing to let you help, right? So that's what we do. Now, we always have to size it, and you do the best you can. You kind of like make some assumptions, but you can probably get, depending on the problem, higher or less certainty about how well you're sizing this. But this will give you an idea of the value opportunities of the interventions you have, and then you prioritize. And based on the priority, we basically say, okay, what's the delta if we were to, for example, reduce churn in 0.5 percentage point, or if we were to increase a market basket in each transaction by half a product, or a percentage of the market basket. And that's how we approximate it, and we basically track that. Now, we do a lot of A/B testing. On digital, it's easy. In store, it's a little harder, but we are building an experimentation platform, really investing in how can we really measure everything we do. And so we do that, and we basically test it for some time, and then we continue to monitor it, but we basically make assumptions on, like, okay, we saw in the experiment that there was this lift, or we didn't see anything, we'll just drop it. But if there's a lift, we'll adopt that new way, and we will basically say, okay, we're going to take, I don't know, 9 months or half a year or a year of value of this delta. We'll make assumptions. We'll monitor just to make sure the effect didn't disappear, or there's nothing there that's weird. With just basically like stationality and all the different things, you kind of like want to do like a rigorous experiment as much as you can. You most of the time can't do it, or a lot of times you can't. And there's other ways, quasi experiments, and sometimes you'll just have to make a pre-post just to approximate the value. It's not rigorous, but it's better than nothing, just to give an idea. But we do A/B test as much as we can, and then we just basically account for that. And what we do is then do our ROI on projects. So we compare what we created in value and incrementality versus how much it costs us in terms of storage, in terms of compute, and sort of in terms of data science hours put into it. So we track all the costs associated as much as we can. We're sophisticating that. And we have our ROI per data scientist as well. But we also not only track money, but we also track customer experience. So in many projects, or some projects, we can actually have NPS associated to it. And again, it's not causal many times, but it's better than it's correlation. But in the cases where we can't do the experiment, we will basically take it as a weak proxy, but it's better than nothing. And in some cases, we can't really map it to a number or to experience. What we do in those cases, we map it to the size of the decision or the business it's supporting. So for example, I have a very important model that enables something new, and that's creating X. Like, we're saying this effort actually is supporting this size of the operation, this size or this feature in our organization that we didn't have before. Obviously, not 100% can be attributed to us. If we weren't there and we didn't do the effort, it would not exist. But then we just kind of like, we have a lot of shared goals. We believe that shared goals, shared OKRs, basically align incentives for teams to work together.
Okay, that makes sense. I think a follow-up question to that. It sounded like you, from a top-down standpoint, have a lot of buy-in for investing in AI. But do you ever have any challenges for getting that buy-in for making or starting a new effort?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always you know what the main pushback nowadays is not so much in terms of people and executives and leadership believing that there's value. I think most organizations know that there's value there. There's been enough time and enough evidence that people know if you got a good team and you connect the team with the business and they're working together, they will focus on the right things. The biggest push will be in bandwidth and time. And I think that's a very valid bandwidth. I mean, sorry, a pushback, because it doesn't matter if a customer is or an internal customer is willing, they might not be ready. They might not have the bandwidth and be able to assign the resources to you. So most of the time when we find something that we think is very valuable and we can't pursue it and push it, it's because there's other priorities that are more important and taking away from that bandwidth. Now, that's always going to happen, It's going to be also the data science team and other teams associated to it that have to really make a case for saying, hey, look, I know these things are urgent, but here's a huge opportunity. And I think that's why data science and value creation with AI and data science is it's even more than a technical problem. It's a human leadership problem or opportunity, right?
Got it. That makes sense. I guess like from that perspective, then, what is the level of investment anytime you're looking at these an AI project, from the time where you say, okay, this is going to add value to my business, to the time and resources, the human hours that it takes to actually go launch it, test it, and then move it to production?
Yeah, it varies a lot. I mean, I would say like you can have models that use something very simple that's not going to serve the whole organization. It's going to serve a team. It'll be like quick will be like, I don't know, a couple months, maybe a month. Then you got other models that are not hard from a point of view of the modeling, assuming the data's there, but it's just very difficult from the point of view of aligning the different parts, and it should be that way. I mean, there should be alignment, but sometimes, here's the other thing. Another obstacle to data science and AI value capture is the lack of processes. So like many organizations work well in a non-AI and non-data value maximizing world. So it's not obvious, and there hasn't been time allocated or processes having been created for decisions, for things to be discussed, for decisions to be made. So a lot of time is lost or suboptimally spent on this negotiation and like waiting for the next meeting. And I think that's another one, like thinking about optimal organizational design and processes is fundamental. So some models will take 6 months or 9 months, and it's way too much. It's like, it makes no sense for it to take so long. It's a function of the maturity of the organization to have, and also the platform readiness or the platform availability of the company. If you're more technology oriented, you have a platform that enables you to scale and capture the value of AI, that will take it'll take much less.
Got it. Yeah, I think a lot of companies tend to have trouble taking their data, which, over the last couple of decades, a lot of companies have gone to data collection. They've got all the data, they've done some statistical models to be able to do correct promotions, but they're really missing that next step of actually getting that actionable insights from their data, and actually taking action and doing the personalized promotions and being able to push to specific customers. And that takes a lot of effort to actually be able to use the predictions. If you're just collecting data and looking at it, not doing anything about it, then what is the value of it?
Yeah.
All right. When looking at AI partners or AI vendors, what key qualities are you looking for typically before going in and signing a contract or trying a POC?
Yeah, we are always looking for partners that have this attitude of really trying to help. Some partners or some potential partners sometimes are just trying to sell, and it's pretty transparent, right? And there's nothing wrong with selling. Obviously, that's the business of everyone. And I think like when you really see that there's this like customer obsession with like, what is your problem and how can I help you? And I know I have something that can help you. We value that. The other one is expertise and just like really being capable. That's another one that becomes pretty obvious, where they understand the problem, they've seen it. Even if they've not seen it, they can relate other things. That's fundamental. And then when they actually can help you accelerate the process and really reduce the time to value, that is another one. And I think a really important one is when they help you do the homework for you. In other words, they help you make the decision a no-brainer or closer to it. Here's the business case. This is why you should do this. If this happens, if you implement these tools, these things we're proposing, you will see this return on investment. And that's obviously always, it's going to be an envelope, it's going to be a range. But if they help you do that and think that, it'll make it easier for the customer, the company, to be able to sell it internally. Okay, so I would say one more thing. The ability and readiness and how easy it is to do a POC. And really understanding, okay, here's another thing. Being upfront about total costs is very important. I think a lot of times what happens with some vendors, and this is, you guys at Abacus are great at this, is that they'll come and they'll say, oh, we'll do a POC. And like, there's no discussion of price or anything. It's totally fine for companies to do POCs, charge POCs, right? But a lot of this doesn't come out until later. So all these negotiation, all the investment, and like, or they'll say, we'll do a POC for like, let's say $10,000. And then like, there's no discussion of like, and this is also on the company's fault. It's the company's side and fault. And then like, at the time of signing, it's like I don't know, I'm just going to exaggerate, $50 million contract, right? So like, I think being upfront and giving them information and enabling that like efficiency in terms of the decision-making process just makes it very easy for the customer to trust, and also like they're not waste both parties' time.
Right, that makes sense. Like you definitely want to go in with eyes wide open, see the potential value. So having them be the experts of, hey, we're gonna produce some value inside of your business, give you some actionable insights, be able to potentially decrease costs, increase customer happiness, and then basically give you the upfront, here's what that's going to cost you on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, so from, I guess, to pivot a little bit, given like how a lot of these new AI developments, like large language models and generative AI, have been really ramping up recently, do you see any potential application inside of your business?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I honestly think generative AI is going to transform everything. Andrew Ng mentions how AI is like the new electricity. And I think generative AI is like the new electricity, the new electricity, right? Whatever that is.
Wireless charging.
Yeah, exactly. Fusion, fission, like energy. So I think it's already changing a lot of things. I think it's also demonstrating how a lot of the white collar jobs that we thought were probably a little less at risk are becoming more at risk. And I think I like a quote, I don't remember who said this, basically like, AI won't replace professionals or humans. Like, humans using AI will replace humans that don't use AI. And I think this is true for generative AI. Like, the amount of tools that are out there, and the productivity gains and the things one could do with these tools, if one knows how to use them, is impressive. So it's kind of like someone knowing Excel and not knowing Excel, and having to, like, I don't know, build a discounted cash flow of a sophisticated economic problem. I think that's going to be the case for generative AI. So it's going to transform a lot of our work. I think organizations, so there's productivity, right? But then there's something else. And Eric Wenjolfson from Stanford talks about this. He calls it the Turing trap. And he mentions how we should not get stuck up on the imitation game, on like having computers imitate humans and do things quicker, faster, less prone to errors. That's good. We need that productivity, that enhancement, that creation of value. But he says in the moments in human history where we've had huge progress and amazing shifts in how we do things, for example, electricity, it's been because we did things differently. And doing things differently and using the tools and the technology and doing things differently with these tools and technologies allowed us to have a step change and a radical transformation of how the world worked. So the question is, how do we reorganize our companies? How do we change our processes? How do we change the way we collaborate? How do we access and use other data? How do we share data or enable this collaboration between companies? So here's another important, and I'm sure everyone or a lot of people here know this, like, AI is being commoditized. Like, the building of AI will be probably consumed, at least much of it, as a service. It is nowadays. What's going to be a competitive advantage is the data, the proprietary data that organizations have on their customers, or that organizations have on other people's customers. And obviously, like, privacy and like ensuring this. But if the customers allow for sharing of this, that will be really the differential for value creation and for experiences and for recommendations of companies. That's why first-party data is so important, and that's why there's so much interest in this space.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you touched on this a little bit, but what as any new technology, especially in the internet age, takes over, there's always a pushback when it comes to privacy. Do you think that pushback is temporary? Do you think the benefits of everyday AI and recommendations is going to outweigh most of the concerns, or do you think that's going to be a continued issue?
No, I think it's going to be given. I think solutions will win and companies will win the companies that will win will set up a good framework for privacy and transparency. So people will be incentivized to share the data in a privacy preserving system or way, where they share it because they know that this company X is going to use that data to connect it with other sources that are also preserving others' data, but it'll create value that otherwise I would not be able to have for myself. I have a friend of mine.
You mentioned this in the beginning, where like you're giving a lot of value to the customer. They enter their phone number, they're getting the recommendations, they're getting the custom promotions, and so they're getting something
Exactly.
out of that
It's
exchange.
data as currency, right? So there's this startup started by a friend of mine who's like building personal assistants. It's basically LLMs on your own personal data. So you share it with this assistant, and this assistant basically what it does, it connects with different assistants, different companies, applications, like companies that want to market to others, and it's kind of like the gatekeeper. So it basically allows for filtering of things that are really relevant to you. But it knows you, it preserves your information, your privacy, but it broadcasts it to whoever you want or for the purposes that you want.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how this evolves over the next decade. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. The first party data, when you have the control over it as a company, that's going to be the most value.
Yeah.
And how is AI adopting AI today different than what it was, say, a decade ago? I think it's definitely fundamentally changed in some ways, is how enterprises use their data.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? Like nowadays, like board members are very aware of AI. Thanks to this, like November 30 last year, the release of ChatGPT just made things explode. And like you had all these important outlets that all these CEOs and board members are reading, and they're like reading about New York Times everywhere, right? And so suddenly it becomes like, oh, I've heard about this, but now wow, this is a huge opportunity. So board members, CEOs, executives are starting to ask their teams, what can we do with this? How can we leverage this? How do we not get left behind, right? And you got users, and many of them are users of these tools, and you got users and customers used to like all these technological companies providing interesting features and value for them that are kind of like expecting the same in all the realms of life. And if you are a grocery store, or if you are a pharmacy, or if you're a filling station, the more you can approximate some of these other experiences they have that are very technological, very intelligent, or try to be intelligent, a Netflix, a YouTube, a Gmail, Uber, whatever, like you will be like that'll appeal to you, right? So I think all industries are trying to become more AI driven. I think boards, executives, CEOs know this is important, are pushing their companies to do this. So there's exploration, there's a request for how do we do this. Before it was more on the end of like whoever was the sponsor who was trying to convince the organization. It was more bottoms up. But obviously, if you had a sponsor, it was great. If you didn't have a sponsor, maybe it would die out. Also, the investments are different, right? Like in the past, you had to basically like create a data repository, a data platform, a data warehouse, a lake. You had to invest in talent to build the machine learning models. Nowadays, the talent, you can be a company that's basically, it's kind of a different talent pool. Because like you don't necessarily have to train the models, you can calibrate them on your data. So like it's great to have this expertise, but like it starts to become a little different in terms of the talent, the technology, the capital costs associated to it as well.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so I think we're running close to the end of our time. So one last thing, Miguel, if you could give one piece of advice to everyone here about how to integrate AI into their businesses, what would it be?
I would say like just like learn a little about prompt engineering and play around with these tools. Like I think the big difference will be for me as a professional in any field, like how do you know how to leverage these tools? There's this concept called AI skilling, and I'm working on this with a couple of people, and it's the idea that like if you give these the differential in the future is going to be on human beings learning how to use these AI tools, and it's just an enhancement, an amplifier we can do, right? So I think just learning a little more about that, understanding what are the parameters, what are the space, the things you can tweak, that'll be a huge difference. If you have kids, have your kids play around with it, all these different tools. I think it's going to be a different future where generative AI will be people that know it will surpass and like have an advantage over those who don't know how to use it well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to be with you guys.